Hello there. We are underway in celebrating our first year anniversary. And if you don't already know about it, I'm hosting a raffle and giving away more than $2,000 worth in cash and prizes. So if you or a friend have access to an Apple product, you can enter to win. For the complete details, go to sayyesToYourSoulPodcast.com. All right, here we go with another soulful episode.
I was 18 years old. I had a very interesting experience where I've met a man in real life. And he told me that he was a past life partner. And at the time, I didn't even know about past life, didn't know there was a thing. But he started describing to me a certain scene of a dream. And that scene that he was describing was a recurring dream that I had since I was a child. So I was like, well, I cannot make this up, This is obviously very real.
Hello, I'm Tessa Lynn Alburn. Welcome to the Say Yes to Your Soul podcast, where we empower women to connect with their souls and shine in their business. If you are ready to embrace your brilliance, create meaningful connections, and be compensated for your specific gifts, you're in the right place. Join us as we explore inspiring stories, practical insights, unique points of view, and soulful strategies, all to help you thrive. So let's dive on into this transformative journey together. Tune in and say yes to your soul. I'm really happy today, first of all, that you're here, you're listening, and we have a beautiful guest, a luminous woman. Her name is Carolini Arco, and she is a spiritual mentor, a Reiki Master, and teacher, and she is a past lives healer, and she's also ICF ACC life coach accredited, and she's a breathwork facilitator. Carolini stands for human evolution and believes the best way to create change is by awakening your personal power and self-leadership. And you've been listening to the show and you know how important that is. She has many teachings on spiritual ascension, manifestation, and things of this type. And she's made an impact on over 4,000 people's lives, which is pretty amazing since she's just been doing this for a few years, 7 years. But she's very committed to her work, and she runs, I love this about her because she's on an island. She's running her business from an island, a tropical island off the coast of South Brazil. And she is proud to be a leader for all lightworkers and healers who are actively bridging heaven on earth. Carolini, welcome to Say Yes to Your Soul.
Thank you so much for having me, Tessa. What a beautiful description you just gave. That was the best way I've been introduced so far. Thank you.
Wonderful. I really enjoyed meeting you, and I thought, oh my gosh, this gal, what could she have gone through in her life? Because she really has like a particular type of view, a perspective around spirituality and spiritual mastery, and I have a healthy respect for that. And we were talking, and you were mentioning that you have been through some hard times, including some depression and things of that nature. But I would love if you could start to share some of your story around how you overcame the problems that were happening in your life. And we were talking about the time we're in business where things weren't going as well as you had hoped. So please feel free to share, Carolini.
Certainly. Thank you for that. So I think since a very early age, I realized that I had a calling, that there was something that I was here to do. And I can go back to a time when I was 7 years old, and that was the first time that I was experiencing depression in my life. So I was quite young, going through a very heartbreaking, intense experience. And while my daily life seemed to be quite dark and uncomfortable, during the nighttime, I would go into these journeys to a place that I now call spiritual school, where there would be a variety of masters and they would be giving me lessons. And I remember that they would speak this like weird language, which now I would say they were speaking light language, but at the time I didn't have the language around that. And that was the first that was my favorite part of my day, of my life. It was going to spirit school in the evenings. And
Okay, I have to ask you a question about that. So I mean, you're young and you're going to your own spiritual school and you're hearing light language, which if the listeners aren't familiar with that, it's often undecipherable. It seems like it, right? It's really about the energy that's coming through. But you weren't able to understand the words per se. How did you relate to that? How did you continue to learn and grow through it?
I think it was very much the feelings that that space was bringing me. It's obviously something that is hard to explain in words, but in my own way as a child, I started understanding that the universe was so much bigger than I could comprehend. And I remember the day that I got into that insight after going to spirit school, where it was like, wow, there's so much out there. There's so much available. So it just gave me this sense of perspective, and it allowed me to connect to plants differently, to animal differently, to other people differently. And it was very clear that I was operating from a state that was not usual for a 7 years old.
Yes. And were you able to share that with anyone, or you were pretty much like just in your own little bubble around that?
I was very much in my own little bubble. I did have a nanny growing up, which I say that is my angel, because she was an angel in a lot of ways. And she was somebody that I could always share all of these things with. And she would never judge me or tell that it was my imagination. She was very supportive in the sense of just holding space and validating that as my experience. So that felt really helpful. But that was really having that, having spirit school was really what allowed me to keep going in life at a time. It gave me this true sense of there's something beyond this. There's something beyond the depression that I'm experiencing right now, or even life as I know it. There's something more. And this sense of exploration kind of helped me keep going. Yeah. By the time
Beautiful.
I was 18 years old, I had a very interesting experience where I've met a man in real life. And he told me that he was a past life partner. And at the time, I didn't even know about past life, didn't know that was a thing. But he started describing to me a certain scene of a dream. And that scene that he was describing was a recurring dream that I had since I was a child. So I was like, well, I cannot make this up, This is obviously very real
Yeah,
right now.
that's like something out of the movies, right? That people fantasize about something like that. What kind of feelings did you have when you heard that? And did you trust it? Like what was going on in your mind?
It was very overwhelming because the way that I can describe it, it was like this spiritual light took over me. And suddenly there was no separation between me and him, between this life and past life. It was like everything merged as one. And that was a very lived experience in my body. So to be honest, it was quite overwhelming as an 18-year-old. I couldn't doubt it. There was no part of me that doubted it because it was so real. And the
Mm-hmm.
description he was giving was so real. But he also mentioned that, I had a mission that I needed to fulfill in life, and there were certain abilities that I would have to develop in order to fulfill that mission. And that part for me was quite scary. It was, well, what is this mission? What are these abilities? How am I supposed to go about it? So that made me actually shut down spirituality for my earlier years, the earlier years of my adulthood, because it was just so intense. So I've come from this journey of pivoting a lot.
Well, I can imagine. I mean, that would be really intense, and it makes total sense that you would have had to shut it down because it sounds like you were given almost like a massive upgrade through this relationship. Like all this energy came in, so your whole paradigm is shifting. You're feeling different. Like, what were you noticing just as a young woman in her body? What changes?
I was very aware at that time that what we call the 3D reality, so this space and time matrix that we're living in, was not it. It was not true reality. That experience really, popped my bubble per se, where it was like, well, there's actually something much, much grander at play here. And in your own unique way, you're a part of that. Yeah, that was definitely experience at the time. As you said, it was like a paradigm shift. It was, there's such a thing as past life, but that is still playing in this life. And This man has obviously been brought to me at this perfect time, in this perfect way. The sense of synchronicity that allowed for that to happen was very clear that, oh my gosh, like I'm part of something so much bigger.
Yes, I can imagine not just the synchronicity and the awareness that you're part of something so much bigger, but it would have felt really, really vulnerable. Like, yes. How do I even operate in this? What is the game now?
Yeah. And you know, at the time when I was 18, a teenager still, I felt a sense of anger, to be honest, because there was a part of me that was like, I have a mission that has been chosen for me and I don't have a say in it.
Yes.
Like, I haven't accepted this. Nobody told me, nobody talked to me about this. Like, do I really want this thing? Do I have a choice if I want or do not want this thing? That actually brought a lot of anger at the time, which was partially why I said, no, I'm not going there. Whatever this is too much for me right now. And I'm going to ignore it. I'm going to pretend it didn't happen, which of course did not work, right? But
so tell us, what did happen, Carolini, when you're trying to push it all away and there it is anyhow?
Yeah, so what that led me to do was to pivot my life a number of times, trying to find my place in the world through different careers, different places. You know, I left Brazil, moved to a different state, then moved to New Zealand. When I was 23, I moved to Canada in this exploration of where do I belong? What am I meant to do here? And I really never found myself. By the time I was 25 years old, I was in Canada for a couple of years and I was working at a sandwich shop, managing the shop because that's the best that I knew how to do, completely disconnected from any of my gifts, from a sense of purpose in life, from my self-worth.
What did you learn during that time? I mean, you know, to cut yourself off so coldly and, or maybe not with coldness, but just to be so, you know, absolute about it. How did that impact who you thought you were and how you were going to deal with life?
I think at the time I wouldn't have the answer for that. I think now looking back, I needed to experience a sense of separation so I could go back into union. I needed to feel myself as something separate from spirit, as something separate from the whole, as like somebody who is in charge of my own life by, you know, pure strength and willpower. So I could see that that's really not the way to live.
Okay. So you could suffer.
Yes, basically.
I love that. Okay. So you did that. You woke up. What's it when you woke up one day? You had a vision. What happened? You just sort of like, okay, I give in. What did that look like in terms of your own process?
It was basically that. It was basically woke up one day, had a vision, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't escape this. This is really my destiny. I have to go for it. But how it happened was that I was in a very depressed state, you know, very low self-esteem. And I was going through a little shopping mall and there was a sign that read 15-minute Reiki sessions. And I looked at that and something told me, I have to do this thing. So I went in and I was put on a massage table and this lady put her hands over me and I was completely gone. I was out of my body instantly. And I went into a place where there was nothing. There was no colors, there was no forms, there were no thoughts, there was absolute nothing. And in that nothingness, I found myself in a state even beyond bliss, a state of complete union.
And you just let yourself do that. It's beautiful.
And I stay there. I stay there for what felt like, and I could swear to God, around 4 hours. I swear it was 4 hours. And when I came back, I told her, I was like, wow, you went way over time. This was supposed to be 15 minutes. And she looked at me, she's like, but this was 15 minutes. Okay,
so this is like one of those Jodie Foster moments in Contact, where she goes into, you know, a different universe, and it seems like just minutes. It's kind of the reverse. It seems like minutes to her. And then should they find out there's all these missing hours
Yes.
in her real life, right? Like on the recording. Yeah, you kind of had the opposite of that. But what a beautiful experience. And I mean, I can really see, why you would have chosen then to become a Reiki master yourself and a teacher of that. It sounds like something was released. Like, what do you think happened in that session?
I think my ego surrendered and I came back into the nature of my soul, into the nature of our soul, I would say, even beyond the I. I went into the I am state, the we state.
Yes, the we state. Now that is the oneness state. That's really beautiful. I'm feel privileged just to know you and to hear your story. I am curious around this destiny concept. Since then, have you come to see destiny as something that's, predicted for us that we must follow, or do you have the ability to negotiate or make choices?
That's a great question, and one that I've pondered quite a lot, you can imagine, having gone through these experiences. I think at this point, I realize there is a context that it is your destiny. You are meant to do something in this life. So if I use my example, I believe that I'm meant to be a messenger for the new earth. I am meant to bring the frequency of heaven on earth into the planet, not alone, obviously, not as, the one, like with many, many of us. I'm just one part of that. So in that sense, I can bring heaven on earth through so many different ways. I can bring heaven on earth through being a spiritual teacher, which is what I do right now. I can bring heaven on earth through raising the best kids that I possibly can. I can bring heaven on earth through making sandwiches and making everybody's days better. So I think we have a choice to the details, but the bigger mission, the bigger context, until we accept it, if we don't, it will put us in a state of suffering. But that's my personal belief.
Well, that's really fascinating. So if we don't consciously accept it, we could remain in a state of suffering, fighting it until our dying days. And that would create a very different life path for people.
Mm-hmm.
So most people don't have like these big experiences like what you had, with big downloads of energy and suddenly everything is shifted automatically. A lot of people take some time to shift a small perception, maybe even, in a particular area of their life. So when you're working with people, what do you like to do, let's say in the beginner journey, so that people can start to open to this bigger, grander possibility for them?
Mm-hmm. I love this question. And you are right. For a lot of people, they will not have this big mission, this sort of like big clarity of what I'm meant to do. But I do believe, and I see with my clients over and over again, that we do know the next step for us always. So I think a lot of the work is coming back into a place of self-trust of that next step, of what are you being guided to do just now. And a lot of the times this guidance will actually be, right now I'm being called to stay in the not known and to not have all the answers. But that by itself is a guidance. That by itself is a calling. So a lot of my work is helping people reconnect to the sense of self-trust so they can hear what is the calling that is there now.
Yes, it's like essential, right? The self-trust. Otherwise, people are always looking to the outside for that validation, and they're missing the connection that's necessary with their own soul light. Would you agree with that? Something similar?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The calling, whatever the calling is for you, the calling that of the next step, to take the next step, is something very individual that it can only be found in a place of stillness and inner intimacy.
Ah, yes. That right there is gold. So the stillness, it can only be found in the stillness. The calling, I'm going to repeat it. Calling is to take the next step, and that can only be found in stillness. Right there is a beautiful meditation, like that could transform lives just unto itself, right? Like if somebody were to take that and turn that into a daily question, into journaling it until they enter with that soft intention of their calling, to open to their calling, what is the next step? And then to just wait and be in the stillness.
Yes, exactly.
I'm giggling because, I know it's so hard for people, right? It's been hard for me. There are times where it's really hard. I'm like, nothing's coming. What is going on? Like, where did my soul go? And I think people put all these expectations on themselves, that suddenly they get still and they're just going to hear the soul tell them, like the voice of God, out of a movie somewhere, do this and it's going to be,
Exactly.
But we've got to somehow, so this is all about the heaven on earth, the bridge between the spirit and the soul and this, being a person here with biological needs and emotional needs and interacting with others. We're not just, little soul lights out there on mountaintops somewhere. We're actually putting things into action. I'm curious, Carolini, why do you, or what's your philosophy on being a human on this planet in connection to bringing the 5D here, in connection to raising our vibration? So like, if you could speak a little bit to maybe your bigger theory about being a human here and why planet Earth.
Oh. Do we have 3 hours?
I think we have 2 minutes, but yeah. Okay, I want to know what wisdom is coming to you right now.
I think that there's many kinds of humans in the planet right now. And I will be speaking specifically to the humans who understand that we're in the middle of a big transition and who are listening to this podcast, who can have this level of awareness. Because if we have the level of awareness, that already means something. Not everybody has the level of awareness, and that's not because people are better or worse, right? Like, it's not about that at all. It's just that for the ones who have a level of awareness, we have been sent here for a mission. I believe Earth chose this. Earth chose to evolve. Earth chose to ascend. And in order for Earth to ascend, it needed a species with consciousness and sovereignty to support the process of ascension. So we are that species. Earth has chosen us. And each one of our souls individually agreed to be part of Earth in this specific time. But we're also not just from Earth.
Definitely not. Yeah, that's amazing. So the Earth called us here, and we made an agreement to incarnate and to bring this consciousness and to raise the consciousness so that Earth could have something and evolve her consciousness. Am I getting this right in terms of what you just said?
Yeah, I believe so. Gaia, Pachamama, Sophia. There's so many names to the soul of Earth. It's not
Yeah.
an inanimate being by any means. You look around, everything is very alive.
Yes, indeed. And the soul is clearly sparking all the intelligence that creates life over and over and over.
Yes. And we are part of that in much grander ways than we realize. The power of our consciousness goes beyond if we think that the internet's powerful, if we think that nuclear weapons is a powerful thing, like whatever kind of power you think in the universe right now, our consciousness is more powerful than that. We're starting to realize it. We're starting to notice it. But it really is that we are the ones that have the potential to steer this forward in a very positive way if we choose to.
Thank you so much for that. And thank you for bringing your consciousness and your soul and your heart here today to share this beautiful message with people. And it may not resonate with everybody, and that's okay, right? Just like you said, like everybody here is has their own calling, and it's about listening to that calling, whatever that is. And so I'm really glad you brought this amazing conversation, and I want more. I guess I will have to settle right now for a tip or one piece of advice or guidance that you'd like to leave with the listeners here today. So, that little crystalline something. It can be something you've already mentioned. What would you like them to know?
I think for today, this piece of trust the next step of your calling, just what's right in front of you right now. I know it's easier said than done, but don't overthink it. Don't judge it. You know what it is. You know what is the thing that you need to focus on right now. Focus on that for you. Trust on that for you. Because once you develop that, the world will never be the same. Your world will never be the same.
Well said. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Of course. I'd love to have you share with our listeners how they can reach you, how they can get in contact with you. And I know you have an amazing free gift for them as well.
So I would love to get in contact with anybody that is listening to this podcast. And if it has spoken to you, you're definitely, one of us, one of these missions. So I would love to be in contact with you. You can find me on my website, arcoteachings.com. On Instagram is Arco Teachings, Facebook, Arco Teachings. And if you go to the show notes, there's the Miracle Maker Morning Practice, which is a very specific vibrational tool that I've developed for people to help you connect to the frequency of heaven on earth for yourself, bringing some miracles into your life so you can realize that you can bring some miracles to the planet as a whole.
And we certainly would like more miracles. So thank you for that. And I know that is an amazing gift. So thank you so much. And really thank you for being here today with all your openness and your honesty and your message, right? It's such a beautiful message. And I think I just also want to encourage those of you who might be feeling like, I might have that bigger calling, and I've been a little afraid of it. And so I know Carolini is open to connecting with you. I'm open to connecting with you. This is a powerful time to come together and be supported, in your new or your burgeoning paradigm. So.
Yes, beautifully said, Tessa. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. It's been such a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure as well. All right. I look forward to being with you all next week. Thank you for listening. Love and light, and bye-bye for now. All right. Thank you for joining us for this week's delicious episode. Before you jump off, I wanted to remind you to get entered in the raffle this month because I'm giving away more than $2,000 worth of prizes in both private sessions and actual cash. What are those prizes, you ask? Well, One of them is a private 75-minute soul light healing session with me. And that can be healing on various levels. It might be releasing trauma or tuning up your body or your emotions or clearing things like past lives and karma that's been, energetic debris holding you back. This session can be very helpful and sometimes have dramatic results in relationships, money, and in your health. And we're going to do that together on Zoom, so it doesn't matter where you live. The second prize is a 60-minute coaching session with me, and that's also going to be on Zoom. So if you want support or clarity for your goals, like help with getting started with a project or just creating an action plan, that is going to be an amazing session. You'll be surprised at how much you come away with. The third prize is a personalized meditation that I will design especially for you. And of course, it's going to be yours to keep. So it's going to be fully personalized in terms of the content, and I will be speaking just to you so that you will be able to resonate with it and receive the maximum benefits that you want to create. Okay, now for the fun stuff, the cash. I have several cash prizes in various amounts. I've got several $50 prizes, $75 prizes, and $100 prizes. So you can see there are many opportunities to win here, and I just want to encourage you to be sure to play because you do need to play to win. All monetary prizes will be delivered through PayPal or Wise. And if you have a different currency, it'll be automatically converted for you. So as long as you have access to an Apple device, you can play. And all the instructions are available on our website at sayyes2yoursoulpodcast.com. That's sayyes2yoursoulpodcast.com. And if you need any support in completing your raffle entry, my team is ready to help you with that. You'll find their email on our webpage as well. So that's it. All the best to you. And may you say yes to your soul.